Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. In this episode, I'm taking a look at Darwinning by Dragon Dawn Productions, designed by Timo Multimaki. And this is a game, as the title suggests, about evolution, where you manage your own animal, try to climb up higher in the food chain and evolve into an animal that's smarter, bigger, harder to eat by other animals. And there's also a trick-taking card mechanism in there. So let's open up the box, see what's inside. I'll set up a game and tell you how it plays, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. So, Darwinning by Dragon Dawn Productions. Let's have a look at the box. It's a thin box, about a thumb thick. It's for 2 to 6 players, which plays in about 3/4 to 75 minutes. And it's ages 9 and up. And this is an English and German edition of the game. It's designed by Timo Multimaki, who I met at the Brussels Games Festival. I put a link below for that interview. So that was a very nice interview we had. We played the game a couple of times and it was great fun. So he promised to send me this review copy, which is great, thanks. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. So, inside the box we find a rulebook, a game by the Multimaki family, who are just really nice people. And it's a clear rulebook with all kinds of icons and a setup of the game. It explains the rules, of course, in a couple of pages. It has all the icons that you will find on the cards explained, and there's endgame scoring and rules for 2 players, which is a variant. And what do we have here? The explanation of what a card looks like, and then the same in German. So that's the booklet here. We have a sheet, a punch board of tokens. These are your population tokens with 1 or 2 eggs that you hatch. And there's the bite tokens which you will receive when you get bitten or eaten by other animals higher up the food chain. And here we have this food chain, which is a cardboard card. And it has these platters and cutlery on them. And it starts at 1 and it goes all the way up to 20. So if you're at 20, you're highest on the food chain, of course, with some cool artwork of animals actually sitting at this huge table. That's pretty funny. And then we have all the animal cards. So I'll just flip that out like that. So I have these cards, which are made of kind of a, a plastic feel cardstock. So it has a little poem on the back, which the creators wrote and put on the back here, which is pretty cool. So all of these creatures have their unique artwork, and they have 2 starting abilities. And these cards also have 3 more slots here for extra evolutions, and you can also place cards on top of these should you want to change them. And there's 3 more spots for cards, which I will explain when I explain the rules. So this is the amoeba. It's number 1 on the food chain, all the way at the lowest number. Here is a beetle, which is number 2. There's the beetle. There's an ant. There's a moth. There is a goldfish. Fish. There is a little frog. There is a mouse. There's a parrot, an ara, a bird. It just says bird. And this is cool. The poem is written in the form of a flying bird too. That is so creative. We've got an elephant. We've got a dinosaur. And here is a dragon. Oh, which doesn't have any poem on the back, but I think some of these, probably these 3, were Kickstarter exclusives. I'm not sure if they're exclusive, but they were designed, it says here on the side, by people who backed the game at a level where they could, you know, design their own creature. So they have the credits on the card here. And that's pretty cool. So we have this dragon, we have a seal, and we have an actual fantasy fire-breathing dragon as well. So we have all these creatures in the box, and then we have the cards and these player tokens. This is pretty funny as well. These are wooden player tokens that you put on the food chain track, and they are, of course, for up to 6 players, and they spell out the word, or the name, I should say, Darwin, in different colors. So here's the D, A, R, come on, work with me here, W, and I, which I don't think will stand up unless I put it like that, and an N. So there you go, Darwin. So every player can pick their own color, and they place it on this food chain corresponding to the number of the animal they picked. So then we have these cards in here, and I'll just open a pack. These are basically just all the animals and their evolutions that you can put on your animals. And there's several of them, and they all have their own artwork, and some of the colors and the numbers will have the same artwork. So we've got, I think there's 3 different colors, 3 suits and a wild card. So we have the sand color, we have pink, and there's a blue as well. And the numbers, for example, I'll see if there's number 8 in here as well, see? So the corresponding numbers will have the same kind of evolution, but they have different of these abilities. So the pink ones will have an ability on the left, on the right, and all of them have one on the bottom. And the sand-colored one will have one that gets you up the food chain, and one that gets you an extra animal. And the blue one will get you no extra animal, but you can climb higher up the food chain and gain a new land where your animal can live. So they're all different, and there's a couple of packs of those. So let's open this one up as well. And so each evolution has its own little artwork, which is pretty cool. For example, here you see an elephant with a tortoise shell, which means it cannot be bitten without tools. And so you'll need something else to counter that. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that your animal that can help your animal become harder to defeat. So that's pretty funny, and it's pretty, you know, it's humorous artwork. Here is the can opener that will help you crack the shell. So you can see that image of the elephant with the shell, and you can still eat it if you have the can opener. So that's pretty funny as well. And here is a zebra hiding in a rainbow, because that's camouflage, which means that animals that are directly next to it on the food chain can't eat it because they can't see it. And there's all kinds of stuff like that in there. And all of these are explained in the rule book. Let's see what else we have. They also included the card for Perdition's Mouth Abyssal Rift, which is also one of their games. So a little bit of a promo card here. And we have these cards that tell you what kind of combinations you can make. So for each player there's a card, and the higher up you go, the better your hand is, and you can take the cards that are played. And these are the different lands where your animals will be able to live, and that's those, and the rest are still more cards, more evolutions. Okay, let's set up a game and explain the rules. So the setup is very simple. You place the food chain board in the middle of the table, and it has numbers 1 through 20 on a big table with animals on it. You've got the Darwin letters, and each player will pick a color and pick that letter to be on the track, so you know where you are in the food chain. You have some tokens over here that are used to indicate how many creatures are in your population. So you hand each player the number indicated here on the egg worth of tokens. There are these bite tokens which you get when another creature eats you. And there's a deck of these evolution cards, and you will shuffle that deck and hand all the players 10 cards. And here is a deck of these cards with a habitat depicted on them, all kinds of different locations, habitats. So you shuffle that, and during the game is played in 3 eras, and during the first era you get 5 of those. So you just flip around 5 cards, and these are the 5 lands that are available during the first era for your creatures to live in. And that's the whole setup. Each player also gets one of these reference cards, which is handy for the trick-taking part of the game. And then you can start the game. And so the rules for this game are also pretty simple. The player who is lowest on the food chain starts. So in this case we have a 3, a 7 and a 10. So let's say the ants take the A and start at 3. Then we have this big dinosaur, so he takes the D, he starts at 10. And then we have a mouse. Let me just put that down like this, maybe better. And then we have the mouse, so he takes an improvised M and puts it on the 7. There we go, and these just stay there. So the lowest player decides who wants to start. So in this case, it's the ant, and you take your cards into your hand and you check what you have, and you get to play tricks, and that goes according to this table here. It's kind of like poker. So you can either play a single card of any color, you can play similar numbers of different colors, you can play similar colored cards with different numbers, you can play consecutive numbers in different colors, you can play similar numbers in different colors, you can play consecutive numbers in the same color, or for the same numbers in whatever colors. So that's, and of course the top ones beat the lower ones. So that's what you do. So I could say, well, I have a strong hand. For example, here I have 13, 14 and 15, and there's no way of topping that because 15 is the highest, unless somebody has 4 of the same. You know, could be possible because everybody still has 10 cards on their hands, and it would be a shame to lose this strong trick at the start of the game. I also have a joker here, so I could use it for several things. I could also use 3 13s and the joker and be sure that I'll probably win the trick, but that would be giving away a lot of my very strong cards very early. So I might choose that the player on my left starts, so that I would be last, and then I can see what the others have played and decide if I want to beat that or not. So that's usually something I like to do. I just, if I'm the starting player, I'll choose the person to my left to start. So let's see what the other players have. For example, I just shuffled some cards, and maybe the first player thinks, okay, let's see what I have here. We've got, for example, we've got 9, 10 and 11, but not of the same color. So we've got 9, 10, 11. What is that? That's over here. So that's the fourth, no, the middle one over here. That's pretty good. So you might want to try and play that. So that player plays this hand. Then the next player takes a look at his cards. Let's see, 1, 2, another 1, 2. There's a 10, 5, 11. So we have an 11, 2 5s. It's not the best hand, so we've got 2 10s as well. But there is nothing here that can beat that trick. Unless, let me see, did I have a, no, I did not have a 9. So we have a 10 and 11, but no 12s. So, you know, if I had a 12 or a joker, I could have beaten that hand. But I don't, and let's see what's higher than that. That's 3 of the same numbers, but I only have 2 10s, 2 ones and two twos and two fives. So there's plenty of similar numbers, but no third. And that's about it then. So I will choose to discard a single card, the lowest one that I probably can't use or don't need anyway. So maybe I'm going to get rid of this one. It's a 7 that I can't combine with any of these, although I could use it with this and do that combination, but it's only the third on the list. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just keep that, because two ones and two twos, there's a lot of stuff that you can take into account. You also have to pay attention to the type of card it is, because some of these you might want to use and you don't want to just lose them. So, well, I've got two fives here. You know what? I'm going to play a 5 because I got another card of those anyway. So that's what that player does. And then it's my turn. And let me see. Well, he's got a 9, 10, 11. I think I want to beat that. So what am I going to do? Am I going to play this, or am I going to play the 3 similar numbers? That's also higher, but I lose my joker unless I use this one. And this is even higher still. So I'm going to keep these in my hand. I could also play the 13, 14 with the joker. A lot of options here. So, but I'm just going to play these. There we go. So that means I win the trick. All of these simply get discarded. This gets discarded. And I get to choose one of these cards to add to my creature. Well, the joker doesn't do anything. Has no evolution, but I can use it to climb higher in the food chain or to gain 2 extra creatures for my population. So that's pretty good. I can also use, and these are similar cards, there is a small difference though. They have the same ability, but because they are a different color, a different suit, this one gives me an extra population, 2 spots up in the food chain, and this one only gives 1, but this one does have an extra habitat that I can live in, which is currently also on the board. So that would give me 2 extra food. Each habitat card you add to your creature gets you 2 extra food if that habitat is in this particular round, in this era. So I could do that. I've got 7 creatures. And now I can check how many food do I need. So is this in play? Yes, it is. So I get 2 food. So 2 of my creatures can be fed on this land. I'll just place my token here to indicate that. This is also, the underground habitat is also on the table. So that will also grant me 2 food. So I still need 3 food to feed my entire colony. This card will also give me food. So this is also a card that will provide me. It's printed on here, so I already have that. And there's 2 left. Right. I'm low on the food chain, so I'm not going to be able to eat any of those yet. And so that won't get me any food. So it's probably a good idea not to increase my population, but to get some extra food. So I'm going to place this here underneath my card, indicating that only this part is visible. And that will grant me 2 victory points. It's printed very small next to the icon here, just like these are. And so that will get me 2 extra food because it's currently in play. Oh, I'm making one mistake though. I already have this. And you can't have 2 similar sorts of land on your creature, so that won't work. So sadly, that's not something I can do. I could use the special ability, and the special ability in this case, it's Big Brains, and it lets me see camouflaged creatures, because this image here is another card that gives me camouflage. So part of the game is that you really know which kind of trade cards that there are, because you're gonna have to need to play this game once before you really know what's going on. There's plenty of those cards, so yeah. Unfortunately, the rule book does have a page where they're all explained, so I usually like to leave this open on the table so everybody can see what all these trades do. Okay, so in that case, I think I'll either climb up the food chain or use that ability, but I can't eat anyone yet, so that is not very useful. So fine, I'll put this one here. It would have been nice if I could have gotten extra food, but I'll just move up 2. And since I'm at the starting point of the food chain between 1 and 5, the rules say that if you move up and you're still under 5, you get 1 movement extra. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Another rule is when I'm next to another creature, say if the creature had been over here and I move up 3, then it's 1, 2, 3. You jump over another creature and you occupy the next spot, and then any movement left you move again. So that's pretty handy. Okay, so the mouse was at 7 and the ant is now at 1, 2, 3 at 6. So that is my turn, and the rest of the cards get discarded. I'll just leave these open to indicate that that's the discard pile. Now I've won the trick, so it is again my turn. So I check my cards and I'm thinking, you know, I still need that food. This card does not grant me any food because this is the ice habitat. It's blue with a snowflake, but that's not on the table right now. This one gives me an island. It's also not on the table. And this one gives me the desert, which is on the table. So I'll probably want to be able to add this card to my creature. So I could play this combination, which is pretty strong. I'm fairly confident that I can win with this. So I'll do that. I'll risk these cards, play that hand, and then the second player, clockwise, looks at his cards, thinking, can I beat that? Well, I've got 11, but no 12, 13, 14. No, there's no way I can beat that. Is there a card that I don't really need or can't use? Let's see. And they just take the card that doesn't do anything for them, say for example this one. And they just play that. All right. And then again, third player checks his or her cards, checks the hand. There's nothing here that can beat that, sadly. So I'll discard a card that I'm not going to be using. Let's see. There's a pretty good cards in here. You know, I'll just get rid of this one. There. And that's another trick. So these go away. And I've won. And like I said, I need food. So I'm going to add this one to my card over here. And this time it's a habitat I do not already own. That is on the table. So that will grant me 2 extra food. And now all my creatures are taken care of. These are discarded. And that's how you continue until somebody plays his or her last cards. So if I'm down to just 1 card, and you can hide your cards so you don't let people know how many you have left, and somebody plays a card and I'm like, yep, this is my last one, that means that the round will end after that. And it also means that the person who takes the trick, in this case, does not get to take the card, but all the other players do. So be sure to keep in mind how many cards people have. You can count how many they played and remember how many they still have. And that's also an interesting part, so you really don't want to win the last trick. So then the other players pick a card from what they played and add that to their creature. So that's the end of the trick-taking part of the first era. And then after that you have to see to your animals and you need to feed them. So I already looked at that, so my colony is fed, which is good. And if you have extra food, for some reason I had some extra food, somehow I had an extra card perhaps, then I would get an extra creature because there's plenty of food, I can grow another creature. And that's one way of gaining more creatures. Of course you can get more by adding cards to the right over here, which have this egg, and that will add another creature to your colony as well. And a third way is by eating another creature that's lower than you on the food chain, unless you have some kind of card that lets you eat a creature that's higher up the food chain. There's cards that do that as well. And if you eat somebody, they get a bite marker and you place them on their board like that. And you can take another creature. So there's basically another way of gaining population. Keep in mind though that by feeding your creatures at the end of the round or eating other creatures, you can only gain a maximum of 1 new creature. So this adds creatures instantly, and at the end feeding them can also maximum add 1, even if you have more food. So you do all that starting with the creature lowest on the food chain, so I did that. Then the next one is the mouse. He checks as well, do I have enough food for my creatures? This is in play, this is in play, that's 2 food each. That's good for my mouse. I've been bitten once. If you're bitten twice, you lose 1 of your population, so you would take 1 of these tokens and toss it back into the stack, and that means you're left with 3, and that is a negative for your end scoring, because on the card it'll say, I'll just show that to you a bit more close because it's printed very small. It says that your original 4 population will get you 1 victory point, and each extra character or each extra creature you have will gain 2 victory points. This is already 1 and another victory point. Extra areas will always get you 2 victory points, as you can see over there, very small. And then the final way of getting victory points is with your evolution cards, and they will have a victory point over here, and your card has 5 slots. 1 is usually already occupied, printed on the board already. Some have a second one printed on the board, and there's 3 more spots below here where you can put cards, so you have extra traits. Bear in mind though that these will all give you victory points, but the last slot over here cancels out your victory points because there's a 0 printed here, so that would not give me any points at all. So keep that in mind too. So then you can decide to keep a maximum of 2 of your cards that you still have for the next round. So maybe, for example, I want to keep one of these higher cards and I'll just get rid of the rest. I can hold on to that. And the other players, maybe they ran out of cards already during the round and everything gets discarded. You shuffle that back into the stack. There you go. Shuffle that well. And then you take these cards as well and you shuffle those back into the stack as well. And then the second era starts. And the second era only has 4 different habitats because the continents are drifting apart and we need to find different places to live. And you get 10 cards for each player again, unless you already have a card. It's always 10, so I would in this case keep 1 card and gain 9 new ones. And then the second round starts, again starting with the player lowest on the food chain that decides who starts. And you play your hands again, you do the trick taking again, you improve your creature, and after the last round ends, then the person who won the round does not get a card, the rest does. You start with the lowest creature and feed it, see if it gains any population or loses population, see if it moves up the food track or not, or maybe eats somebody, pass out of these bite markers. And then the second creature and the third creature does that, and things will change around a bit here. You know, maybe the mouse will get higher and start being a dinosaur eating mouse, and all kinds of cards will be added to your creatures and you'll get better and better. And you play a third round where you shuffle again and you only have 3 habitats, and at the end of that everybody again feeds their animals, see how your population changes. And then you count up all your victory points, and you do that by adding the number of your food chain to the victory points on your cards. So you've got victory points over here for your habitats, you've got victory points for the amount of creatures you have, you get victory points that are printed on these ability cards, and you add all of that up, and the person with the most victory points, of course, wins the game. And in case of a tie, the creature with the most animals in its population wins, and if there's still a tie, then you simply check who's highest on the food chain. The game also has a 2-player variant, which is explained in the game, and that is basically how you play Darwinning. So my final opinion on Darwinning by Dragon Dog Productions. Well, let me start with the negative points first, because there are a few minor things that I found take away from the experience of the game, and one of them is the artwork. Now, the artwork is very busy and non-consistent, because most of these cards have a photograph of a habitat. In this case it's water, there's some grassy ground over here, there's savannas and all kinds of nice pictures of environments, which is great. And then they Photoshop in this spying glass, this magnifying glass, and they draw in a creature, and it's just, that's artwork on a photograph, which looks a bit funny. And then you have these icons of your habitats and icons of your population. You have these bite marks, and they're all in a different style, and it looks very busy. And also the cards, they have also the same issue basically. They have some nice artwork. It's okay, it's not the greatest artwork I've seen, but I've seen many games, so I'm kind of a bit spoiled on that area. Other people really like the art, so that's not a big deal. But the icons, again, they're small, they're different. These colors on the top, they're clear, so you can see which color of suit the card is and the number. And then you have these cards with the corresponding combinations that you can make, and they also have these colors, but they're different. Again, you have here the purple flower, the pink flower, and over here it is a flower, but it's different. And here the numbers are white, here the numbers are black. Why? That makes no sense to me. And then there's the text on the bottom, so they added a bar here, which makes the icons clearer to spot, contrary to these. But the text on it is so small, and also the victory points are tiny. You really need to take a very close look at the card to see what is actually on it. So that to me, and then you have these are also, again, very different in style. So the artwork is all over the place. Even the evolution board, the food chain here, has different artwork. And it's nice artwork. I like the way this looks, but it's completely different from all the rest in the game. So there is absolutely no consistency in the artwork, and that makes them look very busy. It would have been nicer if they had been less busy and clearer, and a bigger font, a bigger text on it. So that's a point of improvement, I think. The quality of the components is passable. The cards are fine, I think. These cards are a bit thin, but they feel kind of plastic-like, so I'm sure they'll last, but it could have been a bit thicker. These components are nice. I mean, the tokens are basic but good. These tokens are great. I really like the Darwin letters, so that's a positive. And so that's basically all the negative things I have to say about the game, because the game itself is very clever. I really like the game, and the people I played with also like the game a lot, because it combines a trick-taking mechanism, which is also, it's a nice mechanism to play. You like playing cards, but it combines it with a sort of like a light engine building mechanism. So it combines two, popular mechanisms into one game and adds a fun theme, in my opinion. So that is basically a fun game to me, and I would recommend playing this. At least try it out. And it also comes in a compact and small box that does not take a lot of shelf space, which I also think is positive. It does not have an insert, so everything is just kind of laying around in it. Could have benefited from some Ziploc bags, at least, to put the cards and the components in. You get one Ziploc bag which held these letters in it. Fine, you can add some Ziploc bags yourself. That's not really an issue either. But gameplay-wise, I really do think this is a fun game. It's a light game. It could have benefited from a little bit more depth, perhaps, but even when you're playing this the first time and you don't really know what all these cards do yet, you do have fun, playing the tricks, just checking what everybody has played, and thinking, okay, do I want to win this round or not? Just checking what numbers and what suits you have on your hand, and do you want to keep hold of the better cards for later, or do you just want to try and take this trick right now? Can you take the trick with a low card, which would be beneficial, of course, so you can keep the better ones for later? So that part is already really fun without having to know what all the cards do. And later, when you've played the game a couple of times, then that will get better, because then you're thinking about, okay, I want to keep a hold of the good cards for my creature, and these I don't really need, so I'll see if I can play those away on a trick that I'm not going to be able to take anyway. So it adds more depth as you go, as you learn the game, which is fine. You don't have to immediately grasp a game on your first play, I think. It's better if that happens, if a player can grasp a game fully the first playthrough, but there's not a whole lot of games that have that unless they're extremely light. And this game is relatively light, but this is a game you can play with starting gamers, with even younger people, with kids even. But it is also suited to play with more experienced board gamers. So in that regard, I do really like this game. I would have given it 1.5 thumbs up, but because of the quality of the artwork, I'm going to say 1, but well-deserved big thumbs up for Darwinning by Dragon Dawn Productions. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time on Board Game Heaven.